We watch, we listen, and we remember. The past is already written. The ink is dry.
They have no idea what's going to happen.
Have you ever wondered if there is something after this? Do you believe in the concept of a collective consciousness? Are you open-minded enough to join us as we explore the possibility? If so, welcome to We Neil's Ghost Adventures.
Hello guys, and welcome to the second episode of We Neil's Ghost Adventures. And tonight I'm joined again by Sean Simpson from Spirit Vox Paranormal Dundee, and this is to review footage and audio captures that we gained when I actually went to my own mother's house in Medvin a few weeks back, and we took a local trusted medium. I'm not going to give her name away, but we took what we would class as a very trusted and powerful local medium to meet my mum to try and help her get in touch with my dad. So while there was a private reading going on in a separate room, Sean and I, on the spur of the moment, decided that we would conduct a little experiment. And so while a medium was doing a private reading in the very next room, we switched on the Echo Vox just to see exactly what would happen. And I got to say, in the opening seconds, we're not disappointed. What we're going to do here between us is we're going to go past some of the highlights or some of the parts that we've bookmarked in the entire wave. But for the end of the show, I'm going to give you the entire audio capture for you to review and you to listen back to, and you tell us what you hear. I'd love you to give us your feedback. We'll set up a separate Facebook event so that everyone can leave their comments, and we can carry this thread on and share our findings. I know for a start there are going to be a lot of foreign languages coming through, where Sean and I in particular are listening for the English spoken words, and we've already established that there's a lot of these communications, there's words coming through in German that we're not even actually listening for. So the international spirit or the Echo Vox users group is going to lend itself perfectly to us getting feedback from literally all four corners of the world now as our community grows and grows and grows. So I'll start off by welcoming Sean. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm very good, Neil, thanks for having me back.
I know it's been nearly a year since we did the first show, yep. And I know it always seems to be on the run up to Halloween, but Echo Vox does get very, very busy at this time of the year. And I would also probably like to say as well that the medium that was conducting our private reading in the very next room had absolutely no idea whatsoever what we were up to in the kitchen. In fact, you or I didn't really have any idea. We sort of, I think you saw me setting up and all of a sudden realised what we could actually try here, and there's a really, really nice part on the unedited audio where you literally see the coin drop, where I saw the look in Sean's eye where he realised exactly what I was doing. And because I had tried an Echo Vox experiment there a few times, trying to contact my dad for my mum's sake, and for Echo Vox to be so chatty and so noisy when I use it at home and everywhere else, I was actually aware that it was particularly quiet. Not just that I didn't get any answers from my dad or any responses to any of my questions, I literally got nothing. Echo Vox had never ever been so quiet. So I decided it was a twofer. While Sean brought this medium through to speak to my mum, I knew that the two of us could have a bit of a session afterwards. I thought that the medium was going to be involved in our Echo Vox session as well. as it happens, we just hit the jackpot with what was going on. And to be honest, at the time, we are pretty much just having a conversation with ourselves and allowing the Echovox to capture what it did. It wasn't until the last week when I invited Sean over here, where we started to analyse the audio that we had captured, that literally in the first 20 seconds I had goosebumps all over my arms. The stuff that we've captured here is way beyond coincidence, and I do think that many skeptics and many doubters are going to have problems with the unedited version of this audio, because we haven't just got answers in single word responses to what we're saying. We're sitting back, we're listening, and we've captured entire questions with the answer, and then 2 or 3 spirits or voices, whatever, all agreeing with the like in confirmation. We're literally listening in on separate discussions without any input whatsoever. We're not just capturing single word responses, we are getting complete sentences that make complete sense. And a couple of parts, you were using Echovox 3.0, not the reverse one, for the first part of the session, and there were a couple of responses that sounded backwards. And one in particular just gave me a complete chill, because I can stop the playback and I can manipulate I can loop certain parts of the arranger and listen to them over and over and play them backwards. And it wasn't until we came across this sound that sounded like words but backwards, I decided to reverse them to see what they said, and we'll share that bit with you a little bit later on. So I think the best place to start is to show just how instantly we got a response. And just to get the punchline out of the way to start with, Sean's surname and my surname is Simpson, and my mother that was having the reading in the next room is also called Simpson. However, we hadn't actually felt the need to tell each other what our names were, because we already know each other pretty well anyway. So for the instant the machine was switched on, we instantly get a loop saying Simpson, Simpson, Simpson within seconds of the echo actually being activated. So just to let you see in real time exactly how fast that actually happened.
Cool.
That's my little dog skipping about on the kitchen floor, clicking in the background. Very much alive. So that is 8 seconds after we switched on the device. Simpson, Simpson, Simpson. I'll take it back to that actually. It's clear as a bell. It is as clear as a bell. I'll make a little loop here.
And just to note as well, I never calibrated it to get the echoes sitting properly, so I was still playing about with it.
Simpson. It is as clear as a bell. So that is 8 seconds after the machine's been switched on, and then very quickly, as much as I'm, in fact I'll put it back a little bit here.
Michael,
Play it through.
Michael, twice.
Now, again, I'm going to pause that again there, because what we've just heard there, that is the word Michael coming through and then being corrected saying no, Mike. So Simpson and Mike, it's all becoming a bit predictable, I'm afraid. But the fact is that is the very guy that my mum has been so desperately trying to get in touch with since he died, and that is exactly why we've brought her a medium to try and help her with that. So literally a minute into the session next door, we switched the machine on, and less than 8 seconds into that, it's already said the name clearly of the guy that my mum's desperately trying to get in touch with. So it all got very real right at the very beginning. So we decided it was best just to listen back and see what we were missing, because this wasn't our Q&A session at all. What we wanted to hear was how busy the lines were on a night where channeling was happening so close to our session. So it wasn't a night for us interfering or interrupting. It was very, very much a night for us experimenting. And I'll just let this audio run just for a little bit further here. I do apologise for the dog clicking about. You would hear edit points though. Our skipping would sound backwards if we were playing about with the footage.
Michael. Got him twice.
Take it into this next cue point here. Now, I've actually got that reversed there at the back. Wait till I stretch this up. I'm going to mute the channel that I've reversed, and I'm going to let them hear what it sounded like to us at the time, which made us listen to it further.
Yep.
There was, if I just make a look at this little portion of audio here, there was something as we were listening to it that made us explore further. So it was just the fact that certain words sounded backwards, which made us reverse it to see if it made any sense backwards, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So I'll mute the original channel and I'll give you the same sample but reversed. Now, what I'm going to say is, what we are getting from that, and we listened to it a couple of dozen times at least on the night as well, it's either you can or you can't tell him that they shot him.
Yep.
Now, I don't even have a clue what they're talking about, so I'll slow the footage down, but I'm going to leave it. Now, this is that capture that we thought sounded backwards, so we've reversed this particular section to see if it made any more sense unreversed, because it sounded like it was coming in reverse. So I'll play the loop again, and I'll slow it down slightly as we're listening. So you can't tell him that they shot him. You can't tell him. I'll slow it down slightly. So usually when you speed them up or slow them down, the words that you think you're hearing all of a sudden don't sound at all like the words that you're hearing. But whether that's pitched up or slowed down slightly or slowed right down, the words still sound like you can or can't, I can't make out that sentence, you can or can't tell him that they shot him. And even the rhythm and the structure of it, I have no idea what they're talking about, what they're referring to, but every time I listen to it, it just gets clearer and clearer and clearer. That's why we want to share this with you guys. Have we listened to it too much? Are we putting stuff into it? Are we adding our own imagination? I've played it often enough there. I'll play the loop a couple more times just to see if you agree with me. You can or can't tell him that they shot him. Make your own minds up, folk. And if you're hearing something else entirely, obviously, don't be shy. Please share your findings with us as well. I am, like I say, going to leave this entire wave unedited and the reversed version of it at the end of the show. So it's going to be quite a long show, and the diehards and certainly the EchoVox user group, I know they'll listen to every single minute of the footage. When you see what we've captured now, the counter is at 1 minute 54, and the actual machine itself has only been on for 1 minute of that 1 minute 54. I've cut out the teacups getting chinked about and the ashtrays getting moved off the table, and so we've started sharing and discussing 1 minute's worth of footage, and we've already had to stop it and speak about it for at least a few minutes. We're not even a minute into the capture. It is, honestly, you're in for the long haul, get the kettle on, because we could be here for a while.
The future of radio is here. Bloodknot Radio, viral podcasts, available on Dropbox. Free to stream or download. Bloodknot Radio, music for the masses.
Well, that's one that we couldn't make out ourselves, but like I said at the start, because EchoVox is very international, it's Sean and I can't make out any English spoken words in amongst that. I have actually reversed it as well, but what I'll do is I'll bring it down to an acceptable level first, and I'll play this loop just a few times here, just in case anyone who speaks a different language from us picks anything out from here. And when I reverse the loop, if I mute that one, open up the second channel. This was the exact same segment but in reverse. Now,
See, I always thought it says you don't need tablets. You know?
It could be that, but we've already had a laugh here,
Yeah.
because I'm a let's say I'm an advocate for medicinal marijuana, and that really does sound to me like someone saying he's smoking the catnip, right? And it's the sort of cheeky thing that my Auntie Bet would have said, to be honest, if she'd caught me doing it, sticking it in my Uncle Will's pipe or something. So let me play that loop again, right? Now, just for a laugh, I'm pretty sure this is saying he's smoking the catnip, right? Tell me what you think, right? He's smoking the catnip. Well, I'm not even going to apologise for it. So
Let's just go with that.
And I'm not getting a lecture to stop smoking either. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm comfortable in my own skin. Let's see. Now, I'm skipping forward because while I've got Sean here in the studio, I want to do the parts where we can sort of respond vocally to what we're hearing. So I'm skipping forward to the parts that we've got bookmarked, and I'll just let you hear it as we come across it. This is one that we've called Confirmation.
Yeah.
So if I solo this one here, it's muted at the top. I'll just play this through. If I can isolate this section and again just set it up to play a loop through there. Here we go. This is the section that we want to study. Right, now, when you listen to it the first time, didn't think too much about it at all, but when we study the very, very first part of it, Sean,
It's
getting feedback.
yeah.
They're getting feedback.
They're
So
getting feedback.
I'm going to shorten this loop here, and I'm going to let you hear the first part. Otherwise, this was a section in our audio that we really we'd overlooked. We'd skipped right past it and probably talked over it, because Sean and I don't get together very often. We gas away, and you'll certainly discover that when you're listening to the undisturbed audio. When you listen to the unedited version, I do apologise. We don't get out much. So here's the first section here, where essentially the theory that we have is that as our EchoVox community is growing in users, we have more and more people contributing their findings and sharing our audio.
Exactly.
And we've discovered that there are many people using the app now. You know, it's not just that it's a good selling app. It's got a lot of credible people using it, a lot of people from all over the world, and some of the people that now that we've got to know them would be amongst the folk that I would class as the most sceptical folk I've ever met. I mean, if you can have people, conspiracy theorists, that will just believe absolutely anything, I would categorise the majority of the people in our immediate community as the type of people that really need convincing before they'll believe anything. They won't swallow a line of bullshit. Yeah. They can smell shit from 100 yards. So the point I'm trying to make is our community is growing and growing and growing purely through the credibility of how good EchoVox actually is as a device. It's got nothing to do with PR, it's got nothing to do with us bumming it up. It's the fact that many people want to use it because it actually works, right? That's just a fact. And as our community grows on this side, I believe the responses that we get back from the other side, I believe that there's a community building on the other side as well. I believe there's a massive part of that they are also getting used to this device. They are also aware that this device actually works. And I think there's a massive queue of people with a massive amount of messages that they want passed on to people who are still living. I think that the other side of EchoVox is that side of the community in EchoVox is growing. That's the one that we didn't bank on. So it's getting noisier and noisier. It's getting harder and harder to focus in on one particular discussion because there is so much going on. But I do firmly believe that it's not just the human and the living users at EchoVox community that's growing. I do believe that whatever it is we're trying to channel on the other side, that is getting very popular on the other side as well. Their community is growing massively, and they're actually quite often giving us tips on how to set up. When they suggest to us which sound banks we should be using, they suggest shuffle speeds. It's very worth asking them. You'll agree with this as well. It's very worth asking them whether they want the shuffle speed speeded up or slowed down, or whether they want it switched off altogether. I always ask at the beginning of a session what they would like it set as, and continually all the way through. If you hear something that sounds like a suggestion, it usually comes when we're about to change something, which actually happens in the full length version of this too. You get told no to change it.
Change it, just leave it as it is.
You suggest using a different bank, and it goes no. 3 different things go no, and they say, oh, bank B. It tells you just to, so you...
So they're very aware of exactly what I'm away to do before I actually
absolutely
do it as well. So
questions are preempted.
Yeah, and that can also say as well that they're actually able to see exactly what we're doing, even though we can't see them.
Exactly, because there's also a couple of references to the screen where they're told no to touch it, and someone else is encouraged, touch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this whole session, it definitely got the hairs on my arm standing up. But what we're saying is confirmation. The very first part of this loop, which we literally didn't even give a second listen to at the time, this is what we picked up at the start. They're getting feedback. The second part, they're getting feedback right in the middle there, clear and high pitched. They're getting feedback. So that being as clear as it is, we decided that this whole section here needed a warrant a second listen. So I'm going to extend that loop again back to the point where I had before, and I'll leave that to play again, and I'll loop it just a few times. And again, if any of our listeners are hearing something that we're not, please get in touch. There is something comes up here. And again there. So Right. Now, the cue on that, if you're listening to the unedited wave, we are 6 minutes and 11 seconds into the complete take for that part there. If you want to play around with that, I know the guys in the Echovox group do like to have edit points, so we'll make some of these pretty clear too, so that we can bookmark it at certain points, so that you can go straight to these certain individual parts of the wave. But to be honest, I think after us speaking about them beforehand, if you go on to listen to the full length wave, I reckon these will jog memories along the way. And what we've often found, and back to this again, is that we're used to, when we analyse our audio, we've asked a specific question, and then we listen after we've asked the question for the answer to that question. And quite often what we've found, and you'll back me up again, definitely, is that the questions are actually preempted quite often. So when I'm listening back to the audio to double check things, I quite often find something resembling the answer before I've even asked the question. So, and again, this I think is one of the reasons why it prompted Danny, the developer of the whole Echovox range. He's now got a new device called EVR, and it goes back to, again, where certain responses sound like they're backwards while we're using the normal Echovox, and we're having to rewind them and loop them backwards in order to see what they actually sound like as a forwards word, because when you're playing the wave files in their normal direction, it sounds backwards, but we're not recording backwards. So Danny's developed a brand new device called EVR, or Echovox Reverse, and we do a little experiment with that a little bit later on in this show as well, in the same location. It carries on from this, we just literally switch devices. But so many of these things, with the responses being preempted, it now means when you're listening back in Echovox Reverse, there's a chance that the answers are going to come after the questions, because quite often they come before. And again, just to play with your heads even further, as a result of that, got me thinking, as well as just sharing the full length version in the same direction, in forwards direction as it was captured, I've reversed the entire session as well, and I will include that at the end of the show too, so you can listen to the whole thing in reverse. I don't know if I'm spoiling you, I don't know if it's just absolute overload, but what I do know is that the likes of Danny and many of the guys in the Echovox user group will definitely listen to every single minute of this footage, forwards and backwards, and over again for certain parts. So if I just find the next relevant cue point, there was a couple left here very soon after that, which we may find down the line is actually related anyway. Right, the section that we've cordoned off.
Police line has now been issued.
Here we go. I'll move that point in just a little bit. Here we go here. So Mike again.
Yeah.
I just can't make it out. The start of this. There it is. That's exactly why I put a cue point here.
No, it's like they're trying to listen in
Yeah.
to themselves, and they're saying, "I just can't make it out. It's not making any sense when I'm trying to speak into Echovox." But then we're getting the recording coming through really clearly, like the person sitting in the same room as us saying, "I just can't make it out."
So if I just do the very, very first bit, I just can't make it out. It's a very Scottish accent, apart from anything else, which is another astounding thing, because there are no Scottish sound bites in any of the audio banks.
It's full Hindi.
There you go, in that sound bank it's
it's in Hindi, you know.
So for us to hear such, not just words and phrases, actually regional accents, and we both, I mean, you come from Dundee, I'm more sort of central Tayside, nearer Crieff. I grew up in Medvin, and what we've got in between us is Angus, and the sort of dialect that we are getting here, the words that they use, and the regional accent hasn't got a full Dundee swang. It hasn't got a full sort of creef. It's not. They're not trying to put on a posh Scottish accent.
Yes.
So there's something a bit farmer about the way that I pronounce some of my words. I know I sound, especially to some of the Americans, I must sound like a Wurzel, you know. But what we are picking up is not just Scottish words, very, very
local,
distinguished accents, regional dialects that we can actually determine, roughly where they grew up. So it's just another spooky thing about Echovox, but that I just can't make it out right at the start here. We couldn't at the time make sense of anything that came after it, so I'll extend that loop just a little bit further and loop it again. And also I haven't tried reversing that one yet either, so we'll leave the loop on and just the second part. There's something, but I'm missing it. I can actually try that just to reverse it for the sake. If I loop it from there, just the second half. There's something at the start.
He's not hearing that, that's what it sounds like. He's not hearing that. It does sound distinctively like he's not hearing that. I don't know if anybody else was able to hear.
I'm going to put it back in just in normal. I'll unreverse it and play it in its real time. Just can't make it out. Mike as well, that bit there is very Mike, I would say, which is what my dad got called. He never got called Michael. But it's such a single syllable, you know, that there is, however, a more spooky one coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, that right there.
Some women just say she's okay.
That bit here. Right, he's okay. Thankfully, that sentence ended with that, because there's somebody very, very close to me called Frank, or Frankie, who's no longer with us too, and I'm speaking about the guy that gave me my first ever beer, the guy that took me to my first ever football game and stuff like that. So he lived right across the road, and he was sort of like some folk would have said the village idiot, or the village drunk, but a nicer guy you couldn't meet. And he's a guy that was, especially when I was very young, really, really looked after me. And then once I was old enough to be in the pub as well, sort of looked out for me when I was in the pub, never realised that he had my back in that. So Frank's
it's always been your guardian angel as such.
And anyone from the village I come from knows exactly who I'm speaking about. I'm not going to say his second name or anything else, but this whole sentence, it's not, again, I'm back to what I said at the start, we're not just getting single words, right? There's an entire discussion happening here, and someone's asking about Frank, and then it says Frankie, which is what he got called. Rather than, if he got called Frank, it usually meant he was getting a row for someone, like probably his mum. And there's a whole other discussion about how he's doing, and the whole phrase, the whole sentence ends up with he's okay. So I'll play it again. I'm not letting my imagination run away with me, because these ones are as clear as a bell. Like, they're not even open to discussion. I'll put it on a little loop, but it's a longer section than some of the ones that we've looped before. So, Frank. Frankie. He said his second name there. Frankie. The dog's walking in a loop. Frankie.
It sounds like he says yes, he's there. That's the voice.
That's a particularly, that's a very, very personal one for me, and with the nature of what was going on, the sort of people that my mum would be missing, it's exactly the sort of folk that would be trying to say, it's alright, Ken, we're alright. So it's really, and again, I'm going to tell you where we are. The counter in total is 8:35, which means all of this, everything that we've discussed so far, is in the first 7.5 minutes of the device being switched on. Because we're breaking it down and analysing it, you get the impression that it's being time stretched and that more time's elapsed than it actually has. No, 7.5 minutes of audio in total is all we've managed to analyse up until this point. You see now why I'm going to suggest that we do this particular show over 3, maybe 2 or 3 episodes at least. I think once I get a bit of feedback from the other users in the EchoVox users group, I would love to read back some of their comments. I would love to add some of the stuff that they've found once they've analysed it as well. And I think that this has to be revisited, because when you hear the uninterrupted version of our entire session, I believe you're going to have points and going to have things that you've heard yourself that are maybe even personal to you that make no sense to us whatsoever. So I think this show is going to have to be not just a show of 2 halves. I think it's going to have to be over episodes. I think it has to be 2 or 3 volumes. So I'll find the very next point that we've bookmarked here. This is one that we've entitled He Tested It. I'll put it back just before and we'll play it uninterrupted. Right, hold on, until I put this back. It says I should do the loop from there.
With this,
right.
This we probably had to slow it down as well, didn't we?
Yeah. Push it. Okay, now what we're getting from that there is, at the start, I've tested it. Push it. Okay, and this is at the point where we were sure that they could not only see the screen or the EchoVox, that they were trying to actually interact with the EchoVox. Now, the beauty of this is that when you're using the 3.0, the auto blend or the shuffle makes the wheel in the centre of the screen spin around, and quite often before responses come through, you see the direction being interrupted, right? It either slows down or it speeds up. If you've got it on a slow shuffle speed and the wheel is tracking particularly slowly, all of a sudden you'll see it spinning fast for the response and then going back to the speed that you set it at, or vice versa. So I do believe in the early experiments they were at that point interested in the screen and thought, well, what does it do? I mean, can I use it for this end? What buttons do I press to make it work? I think that they were at that point rookies, as we were with the tech, and I believe that just like playing the guitar or just like anything else, the more you practice, the better you get at it. And I believe that they are the same as us, the same as we're getting better at setting our reverb settings and our delay speeds and stuff like that, that they know which banks they want to use in order to communicate best with you. So I'm back to reiterating the point that ask for their guidance for which bank of sounds that you should be using. I can't tell you enough how often they offer the best advice. They've set me straight right back from the very, very beginning. I'll take this loop just back a little bit so that we can get the very first phrase there. Here we go here. And so again, what we think we're hearing is along the lines of, it's okay, I've tested it, push it, okay, or something like that. You tell me what you think. After I've said that, I don't like putting words into your mouth, because that's like the power of suggestion. I'm not trying to do a Darren Brown. Just tell me what you think. So, I've tested it, push it, okay. And there's something in between that I'm not making out. I've tested it. And it's like she says a name. It's like she says, I've tested it, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, push it. Okay.
There's a clear response of okay.
It's not just one person. No. I mean, there's a conversation going on there. Someone's been offered advice. And it is like they're trying to use it for the other end. It's like they're trying to... What can we do with the controls for this side? It's like I said, skeptics and doubters. There's no complete words or sentences or phrases in the database. There are only the fragments of words that have to be assembled to make single words. So we were astonished in the early days when we got whole words.
Exactly.
You know, and sometimes we had to use our imagination to form the whole words. You know, and listening back to some of our earlier things, you think, oh well, we're maybe overthinking that a wee bit. We're maybe convincing ourselves that that's what it said. But that was to try and get single words. That we were chuffed if we were getting single words. Now we're getting complete conversations. Now, I mean, it's gone, it's gone beyond. Was that a word? To what are they talking about? You know.
And what are they trying to push? They're trying
push
to interact about testing.
Is it the
testing
screen?
Something. They're wanting to push it, and it's like somebody else is saying, "Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry. You don't have to touch it."
So, what I would say is, if you're trying Echovox experiments, if you have a spare device that you can film the screen of the Echovox box, just in case there's any clues in the direction changing, or the little wheel that moves in the centre of the screen, there has to be actually visual clues. I do think that they're trying to interact, and I do think that they're trying to use the device better, and I do think they can offer us some pretty good advice.
I'd say as well, Neil, back in 2013 when we were trying and testing out Echovox, anybody who was an Echovox user would be aware of this wheel trying to stop, and this is when the slight intelligent responses were coming through, not full sentences.
Exactly.
But before the interaction, we were able to then, as a human being, be able to respond back to this. You would notice the wheel moving as if they're trying to adjust it and re-clarify it to try and put a sentence through, so the user would be able to understand exactly what we're saying. And even now today, they're still doing exactly the same. The wheel is being shifted. It's like we're trying to interact. We'll move this and tweak this a little bit so you're able to understand exactly what we're saying. But from hearing these recordings, from what we've done, from Echovox sessions I've done over last year, I've never heard anything like this. I've never ever heard anything like this. It's now got to the stage that it's full sentences. We're now hearing a conversation from them, as before it was broken down. We'd only hear slight words, broken parts of words, but now we're getting to hear a whole new spectrum of just. I can't believe this. You know that this has happened.
And I do think the fact that there was a medium in the very, very next room channeling and doing a private reading, that it's made it extra busy, and it's made the channel. I don't know how to say this without sounding cheesy, but it's almost like
it's been
a much better reception, indeed, and far more interest. The place has become, at that time, was a bit of a hotspot. There were people that were queuing up literally to try and get in touch with my mum, and while the medium can only channel one person at a time, although they jumble through, she was trying to channel on one person in particular. So I think she was trying to hold a lot of things back and a lot of other spirits back to try and find the one in particular. So I think there were a lot of them getting impatient and all wanting a shot, and I just think Echovox worked like an antenna and just picked a lot of this up. A lot, I think, of this discussions that were happening virtually, I'm going to say, in the hall, but I mean figuratively speaking, literally, standing in a queue, waiting to say their part, and waiting for the medium next door to give them a chance to speak through her. So this is the part in particular that obviously got me chills, and this was the one where, when we listened to it back last Sunday night, it sounded like it was backwards when we were still playing this forwards. We were just listening back to it in real time, and it was one of these things that we knew it was something, the rhythm of it, the syntax of it, there was something there, couldn't figure out what it was, so we chopped it and reversed it. And when it played back, as clear as a bell, it's saying my dad's name over and over, Mike Simpson. Doesn't matter whether you're playing it fast or slow, it doesn't matter what pitch you alter it at, it is saying my dad's name. Now I'll play it to you as we heard it first in forwards, where literally it doesn't sound like a word, but it did make me think there's something there, I just can't make it out. And it definitely did sound like it was backwards. Why won't that loop? There we go. Can't remember what the bit is before. I'll take it just before it a little bit, and I will. It's this one I want to mute at the moment, right? I'll loop that. Knack Knack Jack. Now. Knack Knack Jack. Now, there used to be a silly TV programme on BBC Two years and years ago, giving away my age. I think it was called The Adventure Game, and there was this guy at the end of it, dressed up a bit like Crocodile Dundee, but before Crocodile Dundee, and the part that it was like one of these like, it was kind of like the Crystal Maze before the Crystal Maze, and it was set in the future, sort of sci-fi zone, and this guy at the end spoke backwards. And he was really, really good at speaking whole phrases and whole words backwards. So we would go about at the school at that point saying things like Doogie Rev, which was very good backwards, because of this guy in this silly, cheesy adventure game on BBC Two. So he used to come away with certain phrases. As a result of that, and just of the timing of it, and because it was something that we did as primary school kids, trying to figure out what this guy on the TV show was actually saying, we actually spoke backwards a lot. It sounds a bit nerdy, sounds a bit Anunnaki, but I can tell when somebody's speaking backwards, right?
It would be just like
so this part here, right? this was the part that I knew sounded. I knew it was something, but Knack Knack Jack. And I'm usually good at just flipping that myself and just saying what that would be, but I couldn't figure it. So let's take it down to the one below where I've chopped it. I'll make that top one, and I'll leave the same loop. That's just saying Mike Simpson. Mike Simpson. Mike Simpson. It's even got the affliction on the end.
That's hard for trying to say Simpson.
I don't. Sometimes when you're listening to some of these, especially some of these shows on the TV, I'm not going to name drop just before I offend anybody, but you've got to really, really use your imagination. They tell you that they play back an EVP to you, and it sounds to me like a really crackly, dusty record getting played with a really shitty broken needle, and and they're supposed to say that it's going to. They hear a certain word, and they even put the subtitles up on the screen at the time, and they loop it over and over again with the subtitles and try and convince you that even sounds remotely like the word that they're trying to say. Right? This is saying over and over again, Mike Simpson, Mike Simpson. There's not. I don't even have to use my imagination for it. Not Nakna Jack. Oh, hold on. I've gone past it. Mike Simpson. Mike Simpson. It's even cynical. Just because of the way Simpson, Mike Simpson, that I've not really got a lot to say about that. The very first sound that the thing made, before it even had any audio from our voices at all, the loop from the echo without a single voice being fed into the device was Simpson, 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 and it's literally almost as if the useful part of this session started and ended with the exact same thing, but in reverse. So it's got to a halfway point, and it's kind of U-turned its way to the end, and it's got very close in the evening to where we switched over. Yeah. We quickly tried to change banks, which is where it gets a bit interesting when you're listening to the full length audio, because it's really close to the part where you suggest that you want to switch to a different audio bank. That's right, yeah. And you're strongly told not to. That's right. In no uncertain terms. In no uncertain terms. But we did it for a wee while anyway, afterwards, and ended up going back. But it is getting close to the point in the evening where we swapped from EchoVox 3.0 to the new EVR, because you yourself hadn't even had much of a chance to play with that.
That was my very first time switching on EVR, so I was practicing how to operate the system and how to get it up and running, because I've never ever got a chance to use it. So it was a prime example. Crazy thought. Let's do an experiment. Let's see if this works. Got EVR on the phone. Let's get EVR on and see what happens.
Yeah, and the opportunity was just too good to miss, really.
Exactly. Big time.
Right. Now, there's something else just bookmarked here. Let's see. Didn't even give it a name here. So it's something that we couldn't, at the time, didn't distinguish. It's maybe something that didn't mean much, or we couldn't hear, but we thought maybe someone else. Again, we thought it sounded backwards. Actually, it's that one I should be listening to. I wondered why it was so quiet. Here we go. It's this one here. Loop on. Again, it means nothing at all, but it was enough to make me think, what does it sound like actually backwards? There was... if I mute that one, solo it here and continue that loop with it. I think even at that stage, with that one, I was clutching at straws. I think I even tried playing both of them. I had it forwards and backwards. I seem to have tried to overlay them so as that you had it forwards and reverse at the same time.
I think what it was is we were so excited because we were getting responses in reverse. Anything that sounded like an intelligent response, it would be
that is, I mean, the one on this time code here, that says that was 1655, but there was maybe at least a minute of stuff. So 1555 on the actual counter, and that next one was 16:30, so that's within a minute of me finding Mike Simpson as clear as a bell. So definitely a little bit excited, and definitely jumping on everything that sounded backwards after that point. So without wanting to taint anyone's idea of what they're actually hearing, that was certainly me, because that's less than a minute after I'd found that one with my dad that I did want to listen to everything backwards. So I'm glad that we didn't actually do our live reaction. I'm glad that we both got a chance to mull some of this audio over for a week and calm down a wee bit and let it sink in, because we were more than a little excited
definitely.
at the time. So I think it's probably better that we.
And it's taken us over a week in order to analyse it and going over it again and again and again and making sure you are hearing exactly what you're hearing.
Exactly that. Now, is this where we started? That may be where we started EVR.
Yes, it's Echovox reverse.
That's it, right at the start. How you doing? No, you no bother. There was one bit in particular with the EVR.
This one is in forward.
Right. Missing my girls. Dumb fuck. That's this is aye. I will boost this a little bit to let you hear it as well. But what we've got here is aye. Someone asks. It's almost like if they had a regret, and then the response comes back as missing my girls. Like he's done something silly. Someone else butts in with a very Scottish saying dumb fuck. So it's almost like he's got one of his family or one of his pals with him, agreeing that it was a daft thing that he done. Dumb fuck. So quite clear. I'll boost it. I'll push the volume up just so you can hear it a bit clearer. I'll solo that one. Dumb fuck. And someone agreeing as well, yeah. But very Scottish accent, missing my girls. Yeah, dumb fuck, yeah. Which again, I don't know who it is. I'll just take it back to there's a bigger noise before it, just in case there's a clue in the seconds leading up to it. Oh, wait a second now.
And also the questions that are being asked are being played in reverse.
Yes.
They're not
What are you sorry for?
entirely.
Now, I know that audio boosted there. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, actually, so that you get to hear it, because that sounds like that was punched in. I'm aware of that there. If I take that back up to the original track, it's because that section where he says, missing my girls, I've pulled that down onto a separate track on the arranger, and I've pushed the volume, run it through a compressor, just to try and boost the volumes, just to bring the background noise up to match the foreground noise. So I'm going to mute that track that's been enhanced, and I'm going to play it so that you get my voice and the response as it was picked up by the microphone at the time, in its natural dynamics. Here we go.
What are you sorry for? What are you sorry for? What are you sorry for?
So at that point, I might add, that was one of the few times in the evening where we even had a question for anybody. So we were. It wasn't a night again for us looking for responses to questions that we were making, because we were quite literally listening
Just
to see what
playing.
was actually happening. We were observers. So this was because we had switched on EVR, having your very, very first shot of it. We thought, well, what the difference in EVR is, it doesn't work with preloaded sound banks. What it works on is the microphone and the echo box basically work like a digital delay, and any sounds in the room become manipulated and get worked into a loop and get played into reverse. And it's the after effects of that, the white noise and the trails from the reverb and the trails from the digital delay, that you get responses forming in the words. And it only ever plays, or it only ever samples in reverse, so you only hear our voice forwards the very first time. After that, the delay manipulates it so that you don't get to hear the words that we've ever spoken coming back into the loop. So you can reset it at any point. If the white noise starts to build up and you get a bit of a feedback loop, you can simply clear it with a single touch, and it just starts again to build up with, and I mean everything from folk jingling their keys. Usually when we're recording, we encourage everyone in the room to be very quiet, but when we're using EVR, we would encourage everyone to go about their absolute daily business. Everything from car doors slamming to the microwave beeping to noises from the television, everything from the natural sound pool around you gets drawn in and gets used in the loop. So it can be manipulated, and again, it's the timing of these responses coming back to you with EVR that leads you to think that there's a little bit more than just a coincidence, where you get the exact word in response to the question that you've just asked immediately. So it becomes way more than a coincidence that Sean and I have used this device so often now that we've actually dropped our guard. We're not looking to be convinced anymore that it's actually a device that works. We've gone way past that. It's total acceptance, and what it's actually done is it's liberating, because now we're actually conducting like properly meaningful experiments like this one here, which to the best of my knowledge has not been done before, and it certainly has not been done with EVR, because EVR is such a brand new app. I guarantee there has not been a session done with EVR with a live medium session in the very next room of the same house. So I think what we started off to do was it was spontaneous and turned out to be spectacular. And with that, I think what we'll do is I'll wrap up our talkovers, because I think that's pretty much all the bookmark parts of interest to us. I think we'll kind of wrap it up there.
There was one more, the one that we got.
Oh, now then that's actually a very good point, because that makes the whole reason for me wanting to actually play the reverse version of our complete take. What's going to come up after this, there'll be a couple of jingles, and then we're going to have the full length version, the complete unedited version of our audio capture. And after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the complete reversed version of our capture, because so many of our responses were coming in backwards. We've reversed the entire session, hoping that we can hear some forward words coming from a reverse session. I know it sounds very anorak, but this has already given us more than enough surprises that I know for a fact Sean and I in particular want to look into this much further. I think this one's going to get analysed into 1,000 pieces. So
and it's physically impossible. This audio is physically impossible in order to make a phrase that
because it's playing around with the delay of your voice after your voice, but in order for that to have happened in the time that it was recorded, it would have to have been playing the delay of your voice before your voice said it, because it's honestly it starts to get like time travel when I try and explain this here, because we're looping backwards and forwards. It just about gives you a migraine. But there is one particular section where, because there were so many reverse captures, I gave Sean a copy of the reverse version of the entire session for him to study when he was at home, and he was sending me back the time code points where he thought he definitely heard this or he definitely heard that. And there is one in particular, and I'm going to use this as a sweetener. This is why it's worth listening to the entire backwards version as well. This is just one absolutely perfect example. I'll put a loop around the section that we've bookmarked here, and this is as we heard it. No, it's this part in particular here. I'll bring it in just a tiny bit further, but now I have boosted this audio as well. That's not been reversed, it's just been boosted just for playback. I'll mute the top one so I don't get a feedback. Now, there's something along the lines of, open the gates, I'm leaving. It's almost like there's 2 or 3 at once. There's something there at the start. The gates are wrong, or something like that at the first bit. And then the gates are open, I'm leaving. Now, the reason I highlighted it before is I've gone back. There's a portion in the middle where, when you play it back, because this is the reverse thing, you get to hear your voice. Now, see, as we're watching this on the arranger, I'm playing that backwards, so the needle is, the timeline is moving in reverse. It's going in reverse, and you hear the delay after your voice as we listen to it. There. Oh, I need the loop on. From there. This is the section here where your voice starts, and then I'll highlight the section before.
Yep.
The gates are out, I'm leaving. So the gates are on, the gates are out, I'm leaving. But if I leave the loop on, play that backwards, you hear that that's your voice doing the middle part.
Yep.
Oh, no, not it. Hold on. So we're getting that the way that it should be. The delay is happening after your voice.
Yeah.
So when that's reversed,
We should be getting the delay.
you should hear the delay from that before you
and
hear
then
your
after,
voice.
yeah.
Right. And this is the baffling part,
Yeah.
because that's not the way. So, I mean, we've got it here, quite obviously. We've got the visual aid here,
Yeah, we
actually,
can
because
see
we're
the
looking at the
spikes
screen. But the audio continues and uses what is very obviously a loop of your voice, but in real time that's actually before your voice has made a single sound. So it's this is where it does get a bit confusing, I've got to say. Forwards, the gates are out and leaving.
Yeah.
And there's 3 obvious sounds after that. Yeah, there's definitely something. There's definitely something, and the whole part of that phrase where the gates are out, I'm leaving, come up on the visual representation. It's afterwards where it's bonkers. I mean, really, the after effects of what you said, we should audibly hear before, but it's manipulated it into words after it on the graph, which would have to be before you said it. And this is really, really, really starting to give me a migraine. But it really does just add weight to why Danny wanted to develop the EVR in the first place, because we have to sit here at the moment and chop these sections out and play them backwards, trying to get forward responses. So aware that many of our responses on EVR are actually coming in reverse. The EVR sampling whole phrases and completely U-turning them so that it records in reverse and pronounces the words in reverse in the first place, is actually U-turning them so that we're actually getting far more forward words than we do with a forwards playing device.
And also as well to say that even though with this it's proven the point that we always did say that Spirit used to use your voice and manipulate it, we've now captured it, reverse my voice and it forwards to hear what I was saying and saying in reverse, and it's completely different.
Yeah, I responding with words in your own voice, but words that you haven't contributed to the sound pool, because the microphone sets it starts with absolute silence, and then once a certain sound, like a click of a lighter for example, or a certain word
would create a spike, and it doesn't.
That word backwards and delays and comes in at various times until all these different noises all start to collide, and you get this sort of glorious sound pool where words and sentences and phrases are formed out of white noise and out of background noise, and in our case it's unfortunately my dog walking about on the hardwood floor. But all of these clicks, it's actually, it just adds to the big colour of the sound pool where EVR picks and makes its vowel sounds from. It's EVR itself is, although it's in its early stages, and although that was one of our early experiments, the full length version of that is actually, it's more insightful as well to new users, and is really good to people who want to have a listen to the app, because they literally get to hear us learning how to use it, and they get to hear how quickly it actually starts to work. Exactly. So when people think, oh, you've got to have the settings right, and can you share how you've got your reverb settings and everything else, we switched it on.
Just push
That's
the
what we
button
did. We switched it on, and it happened. So you get to hear us learning how to use it in real time, so you get an idea of how simple a device it is to actually use. The whole night was amazing. The session next door went equally as well, and went on to be another session someone else actually went through afterwards.
That's right.
So we got the chance to sort of catch up after all the hilarity had calmed down, and
very touching as well for your mum to get such a personal reading. That
it was, it definitely gave her closure.
Yeah.
And anyone that's actually interested can get in touch with Sean Simpson at Spirit Vox Paranormal Dundee, and he'll put you in touch with the lady in question. I'm going to describe her as a very powerful and trusted local medium, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to call her Madam X or anything, give her a cheesy name. But I'm keeping all these names out because we're very aware of internet trolls and the nature of Bloodknot Radio and the nature of our YouTube channels and whatever else is. You leave yourself open to the cynics, and you leave yourself open to sarcasm and ridicule. So I'll leave a lot of people's names out of the equation just so as they can't get trolled. And I was quite happy to include my own name and my mum's own name, because I wear my heart on my sleeve on all of my radio shows. I don't really pull my punches with anything, so I'm quite happy to put that forward. So, and Sean as well, because he's an advocate and one of the sort of developers and researchers of EchoVox right from the start. He's actually helped Danny a lot with the research and development of the entire range, and always gets the brand new versions, and Danny relies on his feedback on how we should tweak these versions before they become apps that you can buy even in for iPhone now as well, which was a surprise. The apps always work brilliantly with Samsung and with Android devices, but for them now to work with iPhones and stuff like that as well, Danny's been a very, very busy boy. He never seems to stop, and this ironically all happened in a period where we were under the impression he was having a bit of downtime. So even when he's keeping his head down and his social media pages go a bit quiet, I've learned to mean that's usually when he's been tinkering, and the minute he breaks his silence, there's all sorts of new additions and all sorts of updates to the existing apps. And not just that, he price adjusts all the time as well. He's continually got special deals in the App Store and Play Store, and it's well worth checking. An app that costs $18.99 1 week, he does special offers where you can buy them for $5.99. It's honestly worth checking, and I'm an advocate for EchoVox 3 because I think I've broken 2 devices since I got it, and I'm now on my 3rd tablet or phone that I've had to install it for, and Sean will back me up. I've bought the £25 version 3 times now, right? I'm devastated when I've dropped my phone. I don't care about my contacts or anything else because I've got them all backed up. The only thing I was concerned about losing was EchoVox 3.0. So I've bought the app myself 3 times for the full price. It's something that I actually feel I couldn't be without. It's something that I absolutely feel lonely folk don't even need to be actually lonely, to be honest. Yeah, it's better company than a budgie or a parrot. It's
what you find is that us EchoVox users do more communicating with the dead than we do with the living, because we're always learning something new, aren't we?
I agree with that. I think with us having reviewed most of the parts that we bookmarked, it's the best time now for us to leave everybody to listen to the uninterrupted footage without us putting any ideas into their head and what we think we can hear in responses. I think we'll let them listen to the full length version, and I'll take this opportunity to thank you very much for coming through twice in a week now, Sean, to do the show. And you know what, you're going to be back because we're going to get feedback about this one,
of course,
and I think there's definitely stuff that we haven't missed or that we haven't actually highlighted as yet. And the more I listen to it, especially when I listen back to the show, I'm going to start writing down the counter numbers so that I know exactly whereabout it is. It's just like adding a bookmark. So I think we'll be back. I think that this will get discussed further, and I'm going to say thanks, Sean, and thanks Spiritvox Paranormal Dundee, and I'm going to leave you with the uninterrupted footage. I will be back in about 40 minutes when that's done and introduce the reverse footage. So sit tight, folks, get the kettle on, get the nibbles in. It's going to be a long night. You're listening to Wee Neil's Ghost Adventures on Bloodknot Radio. Thanks so much, Sean. What a blast.
You're welcome, man.
Brilliant.
Anytime.
That's a wrap.
This is a final podcast from Bloodknot Radio. It's time to wake up. Music for the masses.
Cool. On. Michael.
Michael. Twice.
Bless you.
Lighter clicks. Can you use my lighter instead of your clicky lighter? Is that cool?
Okay.
Does that?
What you're doing right now is you're conducting an experiment.
Aye.
With a medium working next door and you're trying to run Echovox at the same time.
I know. And not asking questions,
Exactly.
just see
Just
what
let it
interferes.
run.
Yeah. I told you my man's name yet, I know. Mike.
Is it?
Michael.
There we go.
I don't know how many times that's come through already, but I hadn't even told you that. Andrew Michael Simpson, we got called Mike.
Oh,
Never got called Andrew. Never heard of him called Andrew in my life. What bank are you on?
D.
Just such an ancient village as well. Like the graveyard in there has got the gravestones on it that are 300 years old. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of them. You can still make out some of the you can't read the writing on them anymore.
Still not
But that ones that back in the days when they put like skulls and coffins and stuff like that actually on the gravestones themselves. And there's a couple of big like crypts, like tombs, where there's no families in it.
Right.
One of them, I think it's like 1650 or something like that.
What is it?
Method, that silly story about the spider.
Yeah, that's not right.
Who was that then? If at first you don't succeed, try again. Who was that then? There's a tunnel between the den and Method Castle. Probably in the spider. That's just the number. My goodness. Where was the last place that you guys did an Echo Box session?
I can remember. I've been there.
Has it been?
We went into the Army of Teal over at night. That used to PSP 7 8. Still go through as well. I've gone and still go through it and see if I can get it.
It's good to keep the ways because there's a lot of stuff that you didn't get.
So,
There's a lot of chat the other night, and it was the last time I had switched on it here, like...
Sometimes you got to meditate as well and want them to come through and speak. That's where the key players also use you as a medium. Just using your energy to just speak and your voice and stuff.
There's songs as well where you actually recognise the voice.
Yeah.
I've heard that a couple of times.
Some women just say she's okay. You need to listen back to that. I know there's a woman coming in speaking, but obviously it's going to be next door as well, so...
And these walls are thinking of mixes as well, right? If
you can imagine your mum's front door in the corner, but it's like a cute one. You know what's in it.
Even my granddad, he was in the old folks home, he died when he was in the home, it's 20 yards that way. It's a nice little spot like that. Man, Jean lives 50 yards that way.
You see how I've just got the just feedback coming in and just fading out. That's the way you hear echo box sitting.
Because it uses every delay as a second chance to try and form what it's looking for.
Try and get 4 loops.
Right. I always say external speakers.
Somebody just says metal. Just listen when you hear that on your recording. Take that back. There's shot a lot of spirit box there as well, so... If you want to come through and speak, you're more than welcome to.
It's quite significant. It's a family lived next door. They were our neighbours. They moved in, the houses were brand new as well. And all of the family, bar one member, were killed in a car crash. And they came together and one way straight. About nearly 10 years ago, something like that. A family of 4, didn't have one. And the mum, the dad and the son all lived in the same car crash. Like. And they were next door on that side. Through that wall.
She was a school person.
She was and judo coach and guide leader and whatever else. Hey, go on, what you want?
Definitely you're running this and then I've used all of it. It's like somebody putting on a bit fucking beacon like saying, no, wait, nice name, don't speak this. Actually helps spirit when there's loads of noises as well. Because you use that noise to produce that melody or something. We used to tell everybody to shut up, talk to quality, and it wasn't until we were speaking, everybody was chatting, we were hearing all the voices coming in and behind us, you know. So like, just make as much noise as you want.
What's inside?
Two weeks ago.
The resonance as well. It's almost like the throbbing for the singing bowls, like crystal bowls. Put the volume up on that tablet.
That's Robert. Nope. Zero. Oh, actually, you said no, but somebody says there's an angel.
Man was got an obsession with angels. Right. Got the angel ornaments and figures. Three or three. Just that and ones and that's the two hands that she's sort of all segmented of it.
Right.
The angels and nuts. My dad was a run for an engineer.
No, it's a good thing to do as well, you know, it's getting yourself a notepad as well. You might do what you think you're hearing.
Aye, and the times as well, Karen, that's a good thing as well. Totally fine, this game was significant to us.
You know, people.
Because it was method, history. Primary school teachers made sure that we can understand.
Just been medical walks with rapid behaviour. Been Danny's the same. Notifications going off all over the place. Everybody's like, why don't you switch them off? Why switch them off? We've got an eye. Just run it. Go. We're trying out back.
B. I'm really good with the reverb settings, because I use reverb chambers with the guitars and that all the time, so I'm totally cool mucking about with the bleed filters on the reverb chamber, like
That's alien to me again.
aye, it's just that second nature, because he's coming from a musician's background, that is exactly like an Elisa Squad reverb, and that's exactly the kind of stuff that I would use for enhancing vocals when I'm recording them, so I'm very at home. And I'm determined to get a bank of talk shows, talk radio stations in that EV10.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of the German stations and European stations that's picking up over here. There's a lot of techno. There's a lot of techno. I think, and the thing is, I'm such a nerd with tunes, such an anorak with electro tunes and stuff. I can name that tune in a fraction of a couple of beats, you know what I mean? Kraftwerk,
What's the habit?
But I also think with EVX, when you think there's no words coming through, when they're trying to, when it's flicking through phrases for songs and that as well, I think there's significance in some of the phrases that come through. I think they're selected on purpose, skin. So sometimes the actual song words, when people think, oh, there's no need against no, because it's no voices, actually listen to the lyrics that are coming through. And like you say, Ken, jot them down, because Ken, there's no able to just isolate that, bang on that one word in the middle, but if you've got 3 or 4 phrases, and you can see,
Just create a big part of me.
aye. And it's you know that it's actually sampling for live radios as they're streamed, to get these stations as they're actually being live streamed, because if you're not on Wi-Fi, it doesn't work. So it has to be able to connect to these stations, and it is randomly connected to all these different servers. So, what was going to go there?
See, what Danny was trying to do was create the PSP7 on Android.
Aye.
Because nobody's actually downloaded that program yet. It's PSP7 where you plug your headphones in and your phone turns into a PSP7. So there's people have designed it, but it's online.
I think it has to be
The
actually
hardware would
logged
be too
into all
much.
of these stations at the same time as well.
Yeah.
Because in order for it to jump backwards and forwards to all of them, they must all be sitting in a sort of a standby. So they actually have to all be opened up. So it's clever. There's more to that one than ECI.
Exactly. You'll have to make it.
No, it's not. Unless it's a hint. And in that case, then
I gave one to Doggy, but they don't. But she's alright.
crunch. Yum yum.
Don't give me a
it was listening to the whistling, eh?
We've actually still got the original beta version of that B. During the testing and the really old focus, the old Hawaii.
Right, cool.
Yeah, the first I brought out the Hawaii, and Danny sent me over files of that.
Awesome.
So I've never updated it. I've just kept it as it was.
I like Bang B.
Well, there is no Bank B, so it's completely different to that one.
Well, does it? Aye.
The recordings I sent you, that's supposed to be a test one.
And the night that you did it out at my house, we were on C. And it was all that, it was like Urdu and Hindu. It wasn't even
That's B. He's
It's not
Hindu.
Bang B, yeah.
C's tomorrow, just
That's a wee
noise.
start.
Just loads of noise. He's very quiet. So somebody just said to me, leave it there, but I'm going to change it.
My early experience, I actually asked them where it should be set. Which is like, if I'm doing this wrong, tell me. Faster or slower?
Best.
Yeah, that noise comes on. It's like a bottle top or something. That comes through often. I sometimes take the shuffle and the blend off and hold it right. You see where a bit it is when certain phrases come through. And I just like leave it sitting on there, get it waving, rotating. Just try and encourage that.
So I always keep it on a constant rotation all the time. You can't stop it, and you can put it in reverse as well.
There's a couple of folk in the user group on Facebook as well, wondering how they could capture their audio in reverse in the first place. Like a couple of the nerds were saying, they shot it in flames saying that it was completely impossible, blah blah blah, and it took a photograph of my Zoom 707 guitar height, and it samples 6-second phrases and reverses your phrases, so you don't get to hear them until they're backwards. There's a bit of latency, you don't hear anything when you play the strings, and then all of a sudden the noise comes in just that few seconds behind. But it does play the entire phrase in reverse. So when they were all poo-pooing that poor guy, I jumped on his defence and was like, no, you've got one of them for 20 quid on eBay, by the way, and it does definitely reverse the entire phrase.
This is Echo Vox reverse, and that does exactly what you're saying. Hello, can anybody hear me? Let's give us a minute to kick in.
Does it rely on a signal? You might struggle if it relies on a signal.
No, this is just basically audio backed as well.
Cool. This isn't busy.
Stop writing mode. And B. Hello, can anybody hear me? I'm picking up audio. Hello?
What's good is that USB's capturing if there is any EVP.
Yeah.
And we've got them on the flat line here, so and it does look like there was something after.
Start writing mode. Mode A. It should automatically mode it works. Doing something now. Hello, can anybody hear me?
That's like a boss digital delay pedal. I think that was a microphone, by the way.
Can anybody try and communicate to us for the Echo Vox reverse? can anybody hear us?
Alright.
Alright, how are you?
What was that? You bother?
Bother.
It's the first time I got to play a bit of this, so. You want to come through and tell us your name?
Hamish, like.
Can you tell me your name, who you are, where you're from? About the barbecue? What was that about barbecue?
What are you sorry for? Who's very sorry?
Sorry, I love you. That's what I sound like, isn't it?
Again, if you begin just through the wall, that's a fake partition wall there. We just picked that up. This was actually originally part of the living room, so that's paper thing.
Yeah. I'll get that dog back in there as well.
Wait. Read after.
I'm going to clear that. I'm going to try and see what I can do with that.
See that Wills, that's brilliant that.
I've
I've actually got the effects pedals that I can actually set that up to. I can do that in the room.
See if we can get it to work again. It's not spinning. Right, try it now, see if that goes. Come through and try and see if you can talk to us.
It's especially nice to hear from deck. Say something that only deck would say. It's even more so when Sean was saying you need to try and be quiet. This one is completely using room sounds and manipulating them after just with the delay. So the more background noise and the more natural room noise there is, the better. Checking the glasses and cups and perhaps getting run and all sorts of things, and all of it could lend to the depth of the sound pool that it's using.
what Danny done as well. When he first started out, it was water. We ended up making a laughing and joke calling it water ITC. And it turns out the people were able to get a pot full of water, spin it, and get a photograph.
Right.
Takes all these stills, you actually pick up faces on the water.
Awesome.
And you experiment with it.
Awesome.
Call it water ITC.
Wow, look at that.
Dog's full of water.
You need to get that. Wow, it stores the sound bites for ages and ages and brings them back in again later. That's amazing, just builds its own soundbite bank as it's switched on. That's awesome, by the way.
It's got reverb in it as well, mate. That's a reverb one through. No.
I like that.
Is that easier for you to talk through? Sound
I'll tell you.
like yes when I say is it easier to talk through?
Well, that was the uninterrupted, unedited footage from our little experiment where we did an Echovox session with both Echovox 3.0 and Echovox Reverse as a brand new tool at that point. It was actually our very first shot, and like I said before I started the footage, it actually let new users see just how easy that app was to use, because we were literally, you got to hear us learning how to use it in real time. And as soon as the wave started, Sean had plans to head off, but we've just both sat and listened to the entire thing again. So Sean's still sitting with me in the studio. So I reckon because we were so excited with the footage before, I forgot to actually ask him to tell folk how they can get in touch with you at Spirit Vox Paranormal Dundee. So what's the name of your Facebook pages and the YouTube channel, more importantly, as well?
No problem. You can get us on Facebook at Spirit Vox Paranormal Dundee. YouTube is exactly the same, Spirit Vox Paranormal Dundee. We also have a Twitter account, which is at Spirit Vox Dundee, and we also have a website as www.spiritvoxparanormal@yolasite.com.
I'm going to put all of these links, they'll all be active links on the poster for the show as well. I'll share all this on both the Wee Neil's Ghost Adventures page, and it'll be shared straight onto the Bloodknot radio page as well. So all of these links will all be there for you just to click. You don't have to remember anything or write anything down, and it's a pretty good point now. I'll just run a couple of quick jingles, and I will continue with a totally uninterrupted version of the same capture that you just listened to, but the whole thing in reverse, as we discussed earlier on in the first part of the show. I know by this time of the night some of the anoraks will probably have given up, but the diehards, we're still here in for the long haul. So I think we found so many stunning things, but listening back to the reverse footage, that it just seems appropriate to share it. It would be really unfair for us to have teased you speaking about it and then not even give you the chance to hear it. So we'll be back after these messages.
Have you ever wondered if there is something after this? Do you believe in the concept of a collective consciousness? Are you open-minded enough to join us as we explore the possibility? Neil's Ghost Adventures.
Was that their barbecue? Where you from? Give us. Was that very barbecue? Was that very barbecue?
Hello, CFC. Half year I'll see you.
Tell us your name. Tell me your name, who you are. Was that very barbecue?
Hey, you Robert Basil.
Hello, can anybody tell me your name, who you are. Hear us? Can you tell? You want to come sit? Hello, can anybody? Can you tell? Where you from? Hear us?
Okay, you are with your painting right now.
Hear us? Hello, can anybody? Tell us your name. Hello, can anybody come sit? Hello, can anybody? Tell us your name. You want to come sit? Hello, can anybody? Hello, can anybody? Tell us your name.
Yeah, that's right, that's not going to be. That's it.
Hello, can anybody? Hello, can anybody hear us? Hear us?
Yeah, no?
Hear us?
Yeah, no?
Hear us? Hear us?
Sorry, you man, well.
Hello, can anybody hear me? Daddy, thank you. Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me? Daddy, thank you. Hello, can anybody hear me? Daddy, thank you. Daddy, thank you. Daddy, thank you. Hello, can anybody hear me?
Sorry, speaking in ask you now.
Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me?
Hier is het, maar ik vraag je iets, wat zo.
What that? You know what that He may give an end echo that.
Is it? Hoi.
Was het? Nou, moet je nog heel zien.
Dat is al een geval nog zien. Gewoon yes, nou ja, wat is het?
Okay, I'm sorry. He may give an end echo that. That's what you realize because I've done schrijven over is het.
Zeer verjaard die schrijver heel en zat een hele dag niet nog in ons van zo een associeert het in de wat hij uit aan nu ik hoor nog als schrijver zeer verjaard heel zat ja het is ik had zich net nog zo aan de worden werkgedeelte niet maar hij ik die spelen op zo'n extra maar was nog ik wil die zeer verschillend schrijver zeer vergeten zo haast ja, ik moet dat zo'n investment aan elkaar overgestaan al wel de soort en is heel veel bosjes en is zo staan in de lucht ze willen mossen ze schaffen die schrijver dat we over dat was eigenlijk en hoe is het ziet hè of we zien je hoeveel
Ik geloof maar, ik heb het een Zweedse liefde, dat is een Zweedse reis in de bal, zeg maar. Dat is niet, dat is een Zweedse idee hoor. Zo is het gewoon, maar ik is mijn beste man. Hoog wij even maar. Als een maar zo kan zo overslaan of zeg je wat ze zeggen als je zijn ik blijf erop te zien met als je zaad je laat dus als je met zie zo als ik misschien de kist aan wat zo is ja lang is maar viel nog zo wat niet met de is oost maar als meer zijn al aan zwaar ik van mij maar nieuw zie ja als ik dan is maar wie van de wereld Hey, sorry for the little miss. This help me chat on that.
Das ist mal vorgekommen, wenn man die Notes in der Comedy nimmt.
Ja.
Man hat es gerne von den Verschiedenen und nicht.
This is a viral podcast from Bloodknot Radio. It's time to wake up. Music for the masses.
Well guys, that is all there is time for this week. It's been more than interesting, I think you'll agree with me there, and I'll just take this opportunity first of all to thank all of you guys for tuning in. If you're still listening now, you're definitely what I would class as one of the diehards, and I would like to especially thank Sean for all the time that he spent over here in the studio too over the last couple of weeks, and for coming with me to Medvin to do the initial session. So thanks very much guys for tuning in, and I will be back, no doubt we will be back very very soon with the next instalment of Neil's Ghost Adventures, only on Bloodknot Radio.
I can see in your face, there's a ghost in your soul. This house is haunted, and I got to go. You ask me what my problem is, I say, what you got?